Our episode opens with Cassian and Luthen on part steer guard. This is some of the conversation we saw in the trailers where they're arguing back and forth about Gorman. Now, we thought this might be in reference to the Gorman massacre or some of the other things going on, but really this is in regards to the heist and the Gorman front, those that are trying to push back against the Empire. Cassian is recognizing how they are way too eager and they're way too inexperienced and they will not do what they're told, which is foreshadowing to what's going to happen in the rest of this episode, because Cassian is ultimately right. But so is Luthen. Luthen sees this gem out there of Gorman, wondering what it would be like to have a planet like Gorman on the rebel side. He just sees it as more numbers for the eventual continuation of taking down the Empire. And so, in a way, Luthen is right also, that they need as many folks and as many planets to turn against the Empire as possible, who are willing to put everything on the line, who are willing to even risk their own lives if need be. But Cassian sees this and goes, wait, come on now, this is just ridiculous. It's not going to go well. They're going to fail. Luthen checks in with Kleya to tell her that Cassian is no longer a part of the Gorman stuff. He's away from it, that it wasn't what they needed. They're doing a different item, and that different item was Vel and Cinta. We're going to find out. And so Vel is on Gorman now. She's making contact with the Gorman front, and she's the one that's going to be running point for this entire mission. All along, it shows that Luthen is going to continue to do whatever he thinks is best. He's not really going to listen to others. This is going to get him in trouble sometimes, and at other times, it's going to work out. But with this gem he sees as Gorman, he's not going to give up. He's going to keep pursuing. And I wonder at what point do the ISB and specifically Dedra realize that Axis is getting involved with everything that's going on? Is it going to take another communication from Syril Karn, another meeting where he finds out that they've been getting help from the outside, where they've been getting consultants from all of these others? Is that going to happen? I don't know, but I seem to think that there's going to be some way that Luthen ends up on Gorman. I think he's going to be there when everything goes down and gets crazy, but that's just my sense from looking at the trailers. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm missing something there, but it feels like that's what's going to happen. Now that Cassian is home, he's catching up with Bix. He finds out that while he was gone, Luthen had showed up to take Bix on her mission, but he decided not to when he saw the state that she was in. This really makes Cassian mad. He recognizes that it's Luthen going behind his back, and when he confronts Luthen later about this, he's even going to say, man, I wish Bix hadn't told you. It was really a test to see how they were going to be together. Are they going to tell each other everything? Are they going to keep things separate? He's seeing if Bix will be like Cinta. Will she really detach when she needs to? Will she really do what's needed? Or is she going to still stay loyal and just keep with Cassian? And so now they're going to be together no matter what, versus Vel and Cinta, who are separated, who are actually probably better separated, at least in Luthen's perspective. Well, it seems like it's dinner party season in the Senate. Everyone is throwing their parties, and Perrin is going through the list of all the parties they have to get to, where they eventually will end up at Davos' party. And that's the party we're going to see later in the episode. It's just going to be Davos' party. And now this starts to make sense with everything going on. Why was he talking about all of these artifacts? Well, he has them all on display, really, for this party. It's this lavish opportunity for Davos to show off, and I think it's going to be really interesting. I thought that was a cool part of the episode, and one that was really tense that I wasn't expecting to be. Now it's Cassian's turn to step out of line. He's going to continue to do what his heart says, not always what his head says. And I think this is one of those moments where we're going to see more growing pains from this character, because he's going to be very different once we get to Rogue One. He's come a long way from the Casa we met back in season 1, but now he is looking out for Bix. He's protecting Bix, and so he shows up at the shop. He knows he's not supposed to be there. Luthen knows he's not supposed to be there. Luthen has a backstory ready to go of why he's even there in case anyone asks, almost as if he expects his place to be bugged, but then they talk otherwise. But he's just trying to shoo Cassian away.
Soft on Gorman, but willing to protect Bix at any cost.
We are not droids, Luthen.
We are not who we were when we started.
Luthen is seeing the hypocrisy, or at least calling the hypocrisy out of Cassian, that he's willing to go to such lengths for Bix, but he's unwilling to do the difficult things that are required to get the Gorman people up and ready for a rebellion. He's going to protect her at all costs. And even Cassian realizes that he would be better off if he wasn't doing this, but it's really what Luthen wants. Is he's trying to test Bix. He's trying to get her back and up and running, even though probably for the past year she's been on this roller coaster of up and down, and she's in a really big down right now. She's taking drugs, she's zoning out, she's freaking out, all that kind of stuff is happening. Her dreams probably are happening more and more, and they know it, and Cassian deep down knows it as well. I think this scene really shows just the difference between Luthen and everyone else. Luthen is willing and ready to do the hard things, to make the hard choices, to move forward with what's going to happen, no matter the cost, as long as it's a net positive. And for Cassian, he's struggling to see that, especially when it comes to Bix, but also when it comes to these Gormans. He's like, they're just not anything. They're not going to be a rebellion. There's nothing really here. And then we're over to Pendergrass meeting with Lonnie, and they're talking about Gorst and how Gorst gets such good results, and now the Empire wants to expand his program into other areas. So we're going to come back to this, but I think what's going to happen from this moment moving on is kind of a secret third mission that's going to happen, and it all started with that look that Lonnie gave right as he was walking away. Lonnie knows this information needs to be passed to Luthen. This is huge, this is big, and they need to move on Gorst now. Now, I'm going to say this. I didn't necessarily catch this on my first watch through. I knew something had happened here, but I didn't know what it was connected to. At first, I thought it was connected to the place where they're going to be a little bit later, which it might minorly be to. They might be connected to Davo and the party, but really what this conversation was setting up a mission that Bix and Cassian are going to go on later in the episode. But we'll come back to that when we're talking about that mission. Well, now we find out who Vel was waiting to meet in the cafe on Gorman. She meets Cinta. They're both here to work the Gorman front, to work with them and to get them ready. Cinta shares that her past year has been really tough. Some kind of accident happened. I'm assuming we're not really going to get more about it, but it just shows that she's been forced to stay apart from Vel. There's a connection rekindled. We can see that in the way that they look at each other. They're happy to be together, but Vel keeps saying, hey, if we don't like this, we can always walk away. Foreshadowing that I don't think everything is going to go exactly the way they want it to. And in fact, I think something's going to go wrong because Cassian felt that way. Luthen is like, whatever, if it blows up, it blows up. I think something's going to happen with this whole heist. And now we get a quick little scene with Dedra and Pendergrass as we realize that Syril is just their little pawn. This is kind of what I felt all along, that Syril really isn't in on what's going on. He doesn't really know what's happening. And this is where we get the lines that, like, he can never know the truth. He can't know that this is really a huge setup. He can't really know what we're doing on Gorman. It's not just about trying to infiltrate the rebels, because I don't think Syril would be interested in getting rebel activity hyped up and going more. He wants to stamp them out. Right now, he sees this as an information gathering mission where he's trying to get deeper and deeper into their group, and so he's giving them some information. They're going to steal some stuff, but I don't think he realizes the length that they're looking for this group to go. They really want them to create chaos on Gorman so that they can stamp it out and take control, all for the Calkite, and that's something that Syril has no clue about. And now Vel is running everything and planning the entire heist, but it's clear that the Gormans aren't going to take orders well. They think they know what they're doing. They think they know what's best. They don't want someone coming in and telling them what to do. They're going to do it themselves. And I think this is just showing the inexperience, the inability to take orders. They're not ready to be soldiers. They're just civilians. These are all the things that Cassian knew were going to be a problem, and they're going to cause major problems as they move forward. This is very different from the Aldhani crew, right? The Aldhani crew, while not everyone was there with pure motives, was there to take orders. They were ready to go. They were doing their thing. Everyone knew their part. Everyone knew what to do. This is how Val is trying to run things, but it's just not clicking. They're arguing at the table. They're going back and forth. And this is what happens when you start bringing in random civilians who have passion and are interested in and want to make an impact, but they have very little experience. We're seeing play out what Pendergrass talked about last episode here in real time. Bix is still on the crash. She's still taking these drugs, but she's talking to Cassian saying, listen, I never want to be left here alone again. I want to be involved. I want to be a part of it. And Cassian is coming to the realization that the only way to get her out of this funk is to bring her along. He can't just protect her. In fact, she's kind of killing herself in a way, being left alone in those walls like a prison. She's stuck in that apartment as if it were a prison. And so now they see the lights, they see something flashing. So there is a mission for them, and she wants to go. Then back to Cinta and Vel as they're having a moment together. They say a really interesting line coming right off the scene of Bix and Cassian, that Luthen sees us more valuable apart. We're worth more to Luthen apart than together. I think this is becoming true also of Bix and Cassian, and why he was trying to do what he did before to see if it would work, and it really didn't. And as the show goes on, we're going to see this is what Luthen has learned, is that you cannot have these relationships. You really can't continue in romance and stay true to the cause. You have to sacrifice. You have to let go. And that's what he's realized long ago. But he's also realizing that the people around him aren't going to make those same commitments to the cause. Now the new senators are being sworn in on Coruscant, and as that's all happening, they're taking their vows and their oaths, and Mon Mothma's struggling, gripping the side of her podium, does not want to say any of these things as they pretty much cheer on the Empire. She's had it, but she's also frustrated that all the people around her are just willing on Coruscant to go with it, to be a part of it, and to just bow down to the Emperor. Luthen and Kleya head out to the party, and Kleya puts something around her neck. At first I thought it was like a Mandalorian helmet, but as I zoomed in more, it's not. It's clearly important though, and we'll see why in a few moments. It's part of the plan at the party. Now we show up at the party with Mon Mothma and Perrin, and who do we meet? We meet Bail Organa, though this is a recast because Jimmy Smits could not be here, so that's a recast of Bail Organa. It's kind of what we assumed. I think it's just an introduction for what's going to be in the last half of the season. We're probably not going to get much now, but it's once Mon Mothma leaves the Senate. Bail is one of those that's going to as well, right? And be a part of the whole entire rebel operation. Dedra and Pendergrass are running interference for this operation. They want to make sure no one interrupts, no one gets in the way, that everything is going to go the way they want. They're going to release the hounds when they want them to go out, and everything is going to be under their control. And so they do it under the guise of Imperial security protocol, setting everyone out. And again, this is some of the secrecy. This is how they're operating. They have to do this all hush hush, so that basically only Dedra and Pendergrass know what's going on. And so now everything starts moving so much faster. This is something I realized as I was taking notes throughout this episode, that the previous episodes, and usually this is how it goes, that you kind of have scene after scene after scene, a little thing here, and then as you start getting closer and closer to the action, the events that are going to unfold, the scenes get shorter and shorter and start pounding back and forth all over the place. And so really I'm just going to kind of recap what's going on from here to the rest of the episode, not really jumping from scene to scene, because it just is this seamless building of multiple heists that are going on. We see the heist prep is really all, again, being a setup. We're seeing how they're being set up to do all this. Vel and Cinta are trying to lead them through everything. This is reminiscent of the Aldhani kind of walkthrough, but it's very different at this table than it was around the Aldhani table. Now we're back to the party, and Luthen is working the room. He's talking to everyone. He's kind of getting laughs. He's wearing expensive jewelry, while Clea is much more focused on trying to figure out how to get this bug out, and she sees her way. She sees Lonnie. Lonnie's at the party, and now it's time to use him because he's the only one she can trust other than Luthen, who's there. And Lonnie's not so okay with this. So Clea tries to flirt with him to make it look like, hey, this is what we're doing. Let's go back. You're going to help me get this bug out. And boy, is it going to actually get pretty tense. I wasn't ready for what was next. Everything is set. The mines are set. Everything's ready to go for the heist. And then we have Mon Mothma talking to Luthen, asking about Vel. She hasn't heard from her in a while. Again, it's just showing how everyone has these attachments except Luthen. It's Mon Mothma who wants to know. She's just worried. She's worried that something might have happened. And it kind of made me think that this was going to mean something was going to happen to Vel in this episode, even though Vel is not the one that gets hurt. And now we have a surprise. A surprise guest is at this event. Director Krennic is hanging out with Davos Skolden. And now you can see the uncomfortableness in Mon Mothma and Luthen. And it means that this entire operation of getting the bug out has to happen under the nose of Director Krennic. I think this is a really cool way just to heighten the intensity of everything else going on and making the whole scene just a little bit interesting. And then you get this back and forth, really for the rest of the episode, between Mon Mothma and Krennic. Krennic has his version of events, and Mon Mothma has her version of events. Krennic's are whitewashed by the Empire, where Mon Mothma's are a little bit more, that's not how I've heard it went. And so it's kind of this back and forth, and this is really the difference between those that are like sympathetic to the Empire, they buy what Krennic says, and those that are sympathetic to the rebellion, they see the truth of what's going on and how everything is spun in a certain light to make everyone look bad except the Empire. It's exactly what's happening on Gorman. Everything's being spun to make the Empire look good and the Gorman people look bad, so that when things start to happen, that the same type of stories that Krennic is saying here and now over these artifacts are what people are going to be saying about the Gorman people over the artifacts left over when their world is completely destroyed. Clea is unflappable as she's trying to get this bug out. She's using Lonnie. Lonnie is the one who's nervous and scared. He knows who's in the room. He sees Director Krennic. He doesn't want to be there any longer than he has to be. And this is where we see Clea starting to try to get the bug out, so much so that she has to hurt her hand to do it. And as the heist is happening, we find out not everyone listened. Some people snuck blasters. And this is where we have our friend back from the meeting. I knew he would show up again, and man, he is huge, and he wants to see what's going on. There's a scuffle, and a gun goes off, a blaster goes off, and it kills Cinta. This is now where Vel has gone into shell shock. She's mad, she's frustrated, and she's gonna lay into the Gorman front folks here on the way back after the heist. I mean, it's just this whole sequence. You could see something was going to go wrong, and now it's Vel. I wonder if Vel is going to be broken just like Bix is for the rest of the season. He shows he was paying attention as he passes the test, as they come across finally to the area that they were trying to take all the stuff away, and Clea kind of sets him up to do it to show that, hey, we weren't doing anything suspicious here. I was giving him information. And now we see the extra mission we didn't know about, as we see Gorst kind of getting his lunch and going back to the office. He's chased down and made to sit in his own chair, as Bix is the one who has broken in. She was hiding in the room when he got there. She's finally got her revenge. This was the other mission that was happening that all goes back to Lonnie's look when this was what Pendergrass put him on. Now Gorst is going to be dealt with, and then Cassian and Bix are walking away as they blow up the rest of the facility. This was kind of maybe the most important mission that we really didn't see. We saw the others, but this is the one that maybe sets Bix back on the right path, and one that I think was really important to not show everything of. It lets us fill in the gaps. It's okay. They don't have to put everything on screen. It's a great job of using just a few scenes to tell an entire story, and it just is picking up the pace of all the things that are happening. For I think what's going to happen in these last 6 episodes is just going to be a blistering pace of event after event after event after event. Truly is a testament to the writing and the directing of how this all fits together, how this episode and really these 3 episodes came to a climax here with everything going on. We had the party with Mon Mothma and Clea, we had the mission on Gorman, and we had the mission on Coruscant with Bix and Cassian. And I think it's just all starting to build to a beautiful, beautiful way. And it's something that just pulls us in. The episode flies by when it's like this. And this is some of the things that make Andor so good. So let me know what was your favorite part down in the comments below. Thanks for being here. As always, remember, my name is Jeremy. This is The Force Fandom, and I will see you on the next one. May the Force be with you.